After a storm, the damage is not always obvious. And if it's not documented correctly, it can cost you. With a decade of experience, we know exactly what to look for. We handle the inspection, claim support, and the roof. Storm season is coming. Make sure you have absolute restoration on your side.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome in the Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You can see a shot there of our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. We'll look more at that one coming up here in a couple minutes as we talk to him in the physical room-to-room weather center. But here in the digital room-to-room weather center today, it has been beautiful. Those trees in full bloom. Everything feels like April, except for the fact we haven't had a lot of storms. Alcorn County, though, could be one of those locations seeing better chances for tomorrow. Today, we still just have high, thin clouds that measure moisture. That dew point there could be one of those limiting factors we're talking about here in a minute. We're looking at, in our opinion, level 2 confidence on some damaging wind gusts and maybe some hailstones up there for Alcorn, Tippah, Tishmingo counties would be some locations, back up toward DeSoto County, Marshall County, as well as Benton County in the far northern portion of the state. Tomorrow, we're looking at that greater potential there. Some of that threat does extend somewhat southward. We'll track where that's most likely coming up here in a couple of moments. But storms return for your Thursday for some. We need moisture. Drought monitor also returns tomorrow, and it's not happy news there in all likelihood as well. We're going to use a few things, including our triple threat, an exclusive here to Mississippi Live Weather, to look at where rotation, maybe some significant rotation is possible on a couple of thunderstorms for tomorrow. Now, I'll be straight up and upfront. This allows us to look at rotation, at hail, and at wind, and it's going to show in particular rotation and hail. I think hail is what that probably primarily ends up becoming. If it happens, we'll show where that's most likely. And we'll use the crossover to look at the severe weather threat all the way through the latter part of this month. The triple threat crossover, 2 exclusives here to Mississippi Live Weather that allow us to break down the forecast in a way that hopefully is helpful for you as we look at that extended forecast. But tonight, this is pretty straightforward. We are clear, we are dry. Of course, we have those thin clouds out there. You can make some arguments for maybe some moisture, but not expecting much. 10% probably overdoing our chances as we go throughout this evening. Better chances, though, by tomorrow morning with a more active pattern taking shape as a couple of storm systems work toward us over the next few days here. Mama Justice Doppler radar, all those live scans as of now 6:03. Not showing anything out there. We are dry. We are clear. We're 52 for that dew point in Oxford, 54 in Houston. What does this mean? This is based on the same scales of temperature as this here, right? And so an 86 on this and an 86, for example, there in Belzona on this would tell us that we had a saturated atmosphere. That point at which dew was occurring was the same as the temperature, so dew would occur, right? So why is this important? This allows us to judge fuel for thunderstorms in a very easy to sample way. This is not high. This is our limiting factor because that air is dry, and that is going to help these temperatures to get near the 90-degree point, if not in excess of 90 for tomorrow on some locations. Very near record high territory for your Thursday. So as we look a little wider here on Mama Justice Doppler radar for a moment, high, thin clouds out there, the story. We have a couple of storm systems as we look back toward the north and west that we're kind of focused on here. Of course, the one that's on the plains, lots of severe weather showing up with that. Out there again for this evening, those blue boxes, tornado watches, green ones, severe thunderstorm watches. So we have that storm system, and then we have another one behind this. This could end up becoming the more interesting one for some of us, as that will bring us a chance for some stronger thunderstorms, I think, into Saturday as well. So we're looking at really 2 chances here. We have one for Thursday and another one as we go toward your Saturday. And at this point here, no official risk for Saturday. Not a high confidence situation, thankfully, but the far extended forecast does have, I think, some even more impressive storm chances. We will again use that exclusive crossover to look ahead at that coming up in a couple minutes. But Futurecast here showing northwest Arkansas there back into eastern Oklahoma. That's the fertile point for thunderstorms to be strong to severe for this evening. As we pick things up at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting a little closer to the Mississippi-Arkansas state line, crossing that state line 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And yes, this does depict a few lighter showers. You can look very closely here, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist scientist to see this here, or a meteorologist. The heaviest activity out into Arkansas. For most of us, this is on the lower end of our scale. There's a lighter variety showers if we see anything in the morning for tomorrow. Our meteorologist Maggie McCall will be tracking any of those issues. But we do have a few of these getting a little bit heavier by around 9 a.m. Again, we will break down Futurecast hour by hour through your Thursday coming up in a couple of moments here. But over the next 24 hours, rain coverage around 20% or so for your the Thursday morning. We're 40% by, say, 9 a.m. Mid-60s out there, pretty warm for this time of year. Those southerly winds trying to bolster that dew point number, that measure of moisture we were talking about. And I still think even if it goes up tomorrow some, it'll still be one of our limiting factors on storm severity. Mid-80s out there with some thunderstorms again popping up into the afternoon. Coming up here in 60 seconds on Mississippi Live Weather, we're going to be breaking down that fuel in particular. Another thing, what we call CAPE, Convective Available Potential Energy. All you need to know, looks kind of like fire on the radar. When you look at that for fuel, that shows us where it's most likely to have that fuel, which is one of those components for strong storm development, and that'll help you plan things out related to that threat as we break down that in more details. Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
Right now at Room to Room, roll the dice for the best price. Don't miss your chance to save 25% off your purchase. Plus, enjoy flexible financing options. Every roll wins real savings. Roll the dice for the best price. Right now only at Room to Room Tupelo.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride, but there's also a significant amount of pressure.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
Watching the sun come up, that's my time. I can have a cup of coffee, and every day is a new opportunity.
That's cool.
Your hand's gotten so Yay!
Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love your mind.
For the first time anywhere, a digital-only weather source has been nominated for not one, but 2 Emmy Awards. This is the 25th nomination I've been humbled to receive over the years, and while accolades are great, we're just proud to deliver the weather coverage that you deserve. Thank you, North Mississippi, for supporting us here at Mississippi Live.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
You're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhon. Aberdeen showing our camera moving around a little bit on those 10-mile-per-hour winds. Appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our partners here on Mississippi Live Weather in so many different ways, bringing you these views that you can see nowhere else. And I mean, just kind of a mix of clouds, but no interesting-looking clouds. Going to make for a nice sunset, but luckily no severe weather or anything like that coming out of any of these. See how flat the clouds are? Flat clouds like what we're seeing out here in Cleveland show there's not much vertical development. That means our atmosphere is stable. When they start bubbling up, that's when we get more concerned. 81 degrees in the Cleveland area as of right at 6:08. And Greenville coming in around 81 as well. Our winds there a little bit breezier, so that camera moving slightly more as we expect that measure of moisture, that dew point, to get a little higher for locations out there. SEC baseball forecast, Ole Miss versus Tennessee there in Knoxville. Pretty warm, I mean, practically to the 90-degree point out there on Rocky Top. So we're looking, obviously, what is going to be a hot game. Much warmer than typically what we typically see in April, and appreciate Carl Hogan Toyota, but it does not touch the Mississippi State forecast there in Columbia, South Carolina. 93, the forecast high on Saturday, 91 for Friday. It is going to be a downright hot series out there in South Carolina. So, man, if you're planning on making the trip, or even if you're not, that one's going to be pretty toasty. We're going to be around the 90-degree point again for tomorrow. Heating and moisture combine, as well as depending on how the atmosphere is structured, to produce fuel. We're looking at Futurecast fuel here. I want to give you an example of what it looks like when there's lots of oranges, even almost kind of an orange, yellowish white color. Plenty of fuel for locations back to the west of us. That's where all the active weather will be for tomorrow, where that fuel is the most significant. As we look toward our region, you'll notice 3:30, we do start to see a little bit. So we're more on the fringe here. Not impossible to get maybe 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Our strike model has a couple that have a little bit of strength to them, and possibly producing a few hailstones with that. That fuel, we have some around for Friday. That's largely sparked by how much heating we have, but the atmosphere is stable in that even though we have fuel, you still need something to ignite it. We don't have that ignition point. We don't have a front, anything like that. That's why we are warmer, maybe a little bit sticky, but I mean, near 90-degree temperatures, no denying that that's a hot day. And then by your Saturday, things more interesting right all along a front that'll move through. Kind of a concentrated area of fuel that moves through the area through midday in the afternoon on Saturday. I think it's enough fuel for strong thunderstorms. We'll look at that with your triple threat in a minute, where it's depicting the strongest of those. I think most storms, even on Saturday, are below severe limits, but certainly disruptive to probably some of your Saturday plans. Your school day forecast for tomorrow, though, disruptions, maybe some showers initially in the morning. No severe weather for most locations with that. I think anything heavier is up very near the Tennessee state line and up into Tennessee. IMPC, again, our sponsors of the school day forecast, were 63 drop off there, 78 degrees by lunch, and 83 by the final bell. Rain chances, overall coverage more diminished in the afternoon, but I think if we were to see something stronger, there might be a greater likelihood to have some of those thunderstorms then. So let's walk through this. Again, this evening, Futurecast trying to depict a couple of little blips of green out there. I think that is highly optimistic, but no question where the strongest of everything is. That's back to the north and west out here into Arkansas. Now, this version of Futurecast, I want you to keep an eye on this for a second. Unfortunately, I'm going to pull away here for a second and show the low temperature. So give me a moment. And we'll kind of pop into those low temperatures for a second here, which are pretty mild in the lower to maybe mid 60s. Normal this time here 52, so we're running well above that. But notice the severe weather risk for tomorrow is going to be up here near the Tennessee state line. Tunica, Santobia, Holly Springs, New Albany, Booneville, northward, most likely spot to see some of those. No tornado risk that we're concerned with for tomorrow on these storms. I just don't think we have enough of that fuel. Okay, so you can have enough fuel to produce a thunderstorm, but not have enough significant moisture to get the base of that thunderstorm low enough to produce a tornado. That's where we find ourselves tomorrow. Even if we get some rotating storms, not impossible to get a warning, but it's not particularly likely either. More likely we'd see some damaging wind, and honestly, maybe some hailstones. Our true shield hail threat there, again, far northern and western Mississippi, though we do have one particular storm that gets kind of ahead that could have a little bit of rotation and hail with it as well. But looking at Futurecast here, notice how we have a couple of these heavier. Corinth back toward around Holly Springs, still pretty small as of 8, 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning, showing a few there, again, similar spots by around 9 to 10 a.m. So rainfall most likely to have some that attempts to accumulate up here near the Tennessee state line. We definitely need it. New drought monitor out tomorrow. They don't tip the hat to us early, but I can tell you it's probably not going to be good news considering how little rain we've seen. And even in the afternoon, much more mist than hit the way we described those storms. A few more of these getting a little heavier, though, by afternoon, late evening there, coming around 5:30, 6 o'clock as we head into the evening, the most likely time period to have some issues there. High temperatures, expecting those to be somewhere in the neighborhood of around the mid-80s, well above normal and not quite the record territory, though we're going to be encroaching more on that as we head toward your Friday. I'm going to have to take this out of play here for a second, force this to look at some rainfall accumulations over the next couple of days here to kind of give you an idea on that, because the chances certainly greatest up here near the Tennessee state line, but even there, you're looking maybe a ½ inch or so between both rounds, 3/4 of an inch, Holly Springs. I mean, listen, we'll take it, especially considering how dry we've been, but not particularly high. Even as far as that is concerned. So let's walk through those rain and storm chances. You can see as we pick things up at 6 p.m. here, storms have expanded pretty quickly out here. Holly Springs up to Bolivar, Tennessee. That severe threat, as we talked about, is really centered to the north of us. You can see why that green level 1 risk is for locations primarily of the north. I mean, it pretty much circles this big complex of storms. So it's in complete agreement with that. So the primary likelihood to see any kind of really active weather in that zone there. We'll show you on our strike model one thunderstorm that gets out here ahead, and it's kind of a cautionary tale of maybe worst case scenario, maybe not most likely scenario on how tomorrow could play out. Those storms expanding, though, toward Booneville by around 7:30, up here toward around Tishmingo, out toward New Albany, and back toward around the Oxford area. By 9 to 10 o'clock, those have all weakened, all pushed to the east. Maybe one lingering little shower storm on our front, but mostly not going to see much of that. And then drier conditions. That front does not bring cooler air. If you were thinking blue means cold, in this case, blue means lift. This is a cold front in name only. It will not behave like one. So you can see that even low temperatures Friday morning. Lower to middle 60s. It's almost the exact same values as what we'll have for tomorrow morning. So Friday morning, tomorrow morning, almost exact same values for lows, a sign that that front just does not have any cold to it. And so as southerly winds kind of pick up, these represent what we would call return flow. You essentially have a high pressure center kind of back out east here for, right about there, so to speak, of our ridge of high pressure. And so we're in the zone where we're going to be bringing up much warmer air out of the Gulf of Mexico. There will be more humidity with that as well. The question is just how much humidity fully filters in with that. On Friday, though, it's largely building the heat. That's how we're pushing near the 90-degree point. And then thunderstorms, much more focused for back into Oklahoma, into Kansas, into Missouri, a more significant severe weather threat for there than even what they have for today. And that's the front that'll bring us to more active weather. That's kind of running out of steam, running out of fuel by your Saturday. So looking at Friday here, upper 80s, lower 90s. I mean, we're at 92 Starkville, Columbus, Caledonia, and Vernon, about 92. Our record for this time of year is 89. So some of us could be at record-breaking levels for your Friday, but we should be dry. And that comes in contrast, obviously, tomorrow and where we'll end up being on Saturday, where I think a lot of us get in the act on rain chances on Saturday. Futurecast, again, we're Friday night here, much more active north and west, moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. Watch this line moving in from Arkansas there. It remains fairly weak, and you do have kind of two batches here where you can get thunderstorms go up right along the front, and then this kind of prefrontal wave here, 5, 6, 7 o'clock Saturday morning. This does not really redevelop, but it could be an area of convergence where air is going to kind of focus in as our primary line rolls in by Saturday afternoon. Now, Futurecast here is not impressed by what we're seeing here on our strike model for your Saturday afternoons. Kind of look beneath the front here for a moment, showing a few that are heavier back out here toward Tunica and South Haven, but we don't even get really deeply up there in the reds or purples on this as this line moves through. So Futurecast is underwhelmed largely because of that lack of fuel that we were looking at. But it wouldn't be shocking to have fuel come up even a little bit more, and a slight increase in fuel. This is April. We have potential that these storms could be a little bit stronger. But this is not a high-end severe weather event. We can absolutely unequivocally say not a high-end severe weather event. That's not to say we don't have a couple stronger thunderstorms, some impacts to your Saturday. But as this line moves from west to east through the area, largely taking the strong storm threat with it by the late afternoon. So let's look at triple threat. This is something you'll see only on Mississippi Live, and this is what it looks like when it's depicting severe weather. Again, severe weather threat locations back out here on the plains today, and so that's where you see the purple. That indicates large hail. The blues indicate wind damage potential there, brighter blue, more extreme wind damage. And then the reds indicate rotation. So this is triple threat, again, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. And clearly all of the rotation, most of the rotation with the thunderstorms back out on the plains for tonight. And then tomorrow, we're going to watch the southern end of this line here. And it gets a little more uppity than maybe reality ends up coming in on this. This depicts, again, does not have many of those early storms here, which would leave us a little more fuel. And as we head towards, say, 1, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we start to see some thunderstorms out there into Arkansas. Watch out, it's just this one lone storm that tries to have some rotation with it and tries to possibly kick out some large hail. You can see out there toward DeWitt where it's kicking out some very large hail potential out of this. I think that one lone rotating storm is more likely than not to not happen. But if it does, I'm not particularly concerned on the tornado threat. I know, look at this, when it says rotation significant, the angle on it is somewhat wrong. And a lot of times we get an angle like this, especially out of the way a front and the upper level pattern all works with this. More often than not, when you get one of those, it becomes a big hail producer, maybe some strong wind. That could be one of our more significant chances for that tomorrow. But you'll notice, again, the sporadic wind damage potential up here. We show Byhalia, Holly Springs, back toward Ashland and Ripley. Again, you're under that level 1 severe weather threat for wind and hail potential for tomorrow. And as you can see, the wind, the more likely impact with that. So that kind of culminates this initial round of thunderstorms. As we go toward your Friday, notice how it's more for the folks that want less out there into the plains for that severe weather threat. This line starts moving toward us. And by Saturday, that's when our chances for maybe some more active weather increase once again. Now, we have the outlines here of where some thunderstorms depicted on the strike model there move through. And you will notice there are a few spots where we do have some rotation out of those thunderstorms as well. Considering this is Wednesday, we're looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days away on this. This will change significantly, but the fact it's kicking out some rotation tracks this far out tells us that even a little bit more fuel, and this is more the correct angle we look for tornadoes, even a little bit more fuel and that rotation threat could be a little bit more significant and possibly something that we have to contend with. There are a few other spots there where maybe we have some light rotation tracks, but still very early and something we'll be adjusting on the forecast the next few days as we get closer. So for your Thursday, we're looking 84 degrees, that high temperature. Thunderstorms, we're going to have some early, some late. Probably best chances, if we're going to see large hail with some of those individual thunderstorms, I think that's a very low likelihood, if I'm honest. Near 90, I know Gabe and I just couldn't do it. But there's going to be car and bank thermometers that do hit the 90-degree point. Dry, near record high for temperatures on your Friday. Saturday, we're looking at 82, and those thunderstorms likely on Saturday in the afternoon and into the evening. I had someone asking, in the comment section about a yard sale on Saturday. A lot of yard sales early in the day, start breaking down as we go toward the afternoon. There are some early day rain chances there that could cause some issues. More likely that we see it in the afternoon as that line moves in, or afternoon for the central portion of the area. But if you're out there near the Mississippi River, this could be, late morning for some of those spots as well. So there'll be some showers around. Not the most ideal day for that. Sunday, though, man, look at that. Upper 60s. We're in the 70s as we look toward next week. Some absolutely spectacular weather for this time of year as we look toward the latter part of this week. Okay, coming up here in 60 seconds, we're going to look at your crossover, which is going to allow us to assess some of the severe weather chances through not just this event, the next couple of days. We'll glance over those, but we're going to look beyond that toward the latter part of this month. April typically is one of our most active months for severe weather and tornadoes. We do have some additional threats we're looking at later this month. We'll show you the crossover and how those could play out as Mississippi Live Weather continues here in 60 seconds.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut, the one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink, or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking, now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed, better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead, catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hate is loud, but love is the majority.
I'm your retirement fear, but don't be scared. You're still in pre-tirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. This is pretirement.org.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon, and we appreciate all of you for supporting us on our various different platforms. A lot of different ways in which you can interact with us. We see some of the information there in the chat. I have some behind the scenes, so it decreases my delay here. So let's look what you have. I see someone mentioning, what do you got there? Gulf of America. One of these days, I will learn Gulf of America. Trust me when I say my brain is everywhere but that, and that's not an excuse, but that is an excuse, and one of these days we'll get there. Appreciate y'all in Pontotoc, Lamar County, Alabama, Guntown, everywhere else. And there's that comment from Tanya asking about yard sale getting washed out. Appreciate you, Sandra, there in Saltillo as well. The severe weather threat for today for locations back to the north and west. An example of how this is playing out. There are some spots there where the have been a confirmed tornado up there close to Clinton, Missouri. So again, this has been a pretty active pattern, a lot of hail, a lot of wind. And so this is how that plays out. When you look at the severe weather risk, yeah, you can have those reports outside of the main risk area, but certainly see the greatest clustering inside that risk area. And so that's part of the reason why we show this. So let's pull that information back off there. And so you look at the severe weather risk for tomorrow, and that's the one that does, include the northern part of Mississippi here. As we go toward day 3, and that's Friday, as we looked at both Storm Finder at 5 o'clock and then your triple threat just a moment ago there, that's why there's just so many reports of hail and wind and everything else back out here into locations in the plains. For Saturday's risk at this point, no official risk for our area, but there is one that's, again, for comparison purposes, larger than the one we have for tomorrow up to the north. Why does that matter? Let's pull that up here for a second. So here is tomorrow's severe weather risk, as you can see, farther north and east. So it tells us that the higher end components are more likely a little bit closer to us for Saturday. So I do expect we will probably see some sort of severe weather risk expanded into our area, assuming the trend continues like it has. I think it's reasonable that a lot of us probably get included in that level 1 severe weather risk. And that is always on there because, again, a limited number of reports. So let's go beyond that. We'll show you something, again, you'll see here only on Mississippi Live. This is the crossover. And the crossover allows us to look at the crossover between 3 very important elements that allow us to forecast and predict severe weather. One of those being jet stream winds, strong winds aloft. The next being low-level winds that, again, that difference in wind direction there helps rotation to occur. And that fuel, which we did analyze a little bit earlier for both events. As you can see, the crossover here showing that dip in the jet stream with some strong winds aloft overhead. So we do have some shear with this. If we come down toward ground level, what I don't show here is any of the purple. So while we do have some strong winds higher up, our lower level wind field isn't as impressive. And we look at fuel, it remains still somewhat limited. So all those things on our crossover here indicating a severe weather threat, not impossible tomorrow, but not quite as likely as it will be for some other days. So with this, what we call a shortwave trough, most of that fuel out to the west. And you'll notice here an example of when things do cross over more substantially. We're looking Friday here. I won't dig too deep into it, but you can see a dip in the jet stream, indicating the strong winds aloft. Actually, a combination there of both the polar jet stream up here and subtropical jet stream. This would be the subtropical one down south, polar up north. When you get those two to kind of combine and you have sufficient fuel, if we slide underneath it, you'll see that there is that sufficient fuel out there. And you also have the strong lower level winds. So that combination of all those things shows that this is a prime zone for severe weather because all of these cross over. So that's an example of what it looks like when you have severe weather on it. So now we're going to zip through a number of days here. First off, we'll hit Saturday, where we do have some of the strong winds aloft there, a limited amount of fuel. But if we dig down here deep and come down in below it, what you'll see is we don't really have any of those purples, even though you can see that dip in the jet stream aloft there. So fuel somewhat, strong winds aloft, but we lack that third component. That's one of the things, again, limiting our severe weather threat. So as we go beyond Saturday, you can see by Sunday, the fuel is out of here. You're going to have strong winds aloft. That's going to be a shift in the pattern. This is actually going to draw in that colder air from the north and west here. And that's what then settles us into much cooler temperatures next week. Because as this flow comes from the north and west there, that continues to be a direction, drier air, right? It's the opposite of the Gulf of America. I said it right once. One of these days I'll learn it. Anyway, so because of there's no moisture coming out of the Gulf. Instead, it's on land here. That's the reason why we keep things dry a good chunk of next week. But we're watching a couple of dips out here toward the west that eventually by not this coming weekend, but the weekend after that could make things more active. You already see the fuel in the central U.S. as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. This big trough here probably leading to some stronger thunderstorms potentially there by next Thursday to Friday, well to the west of us. We start getting into the act potentially by not this coming Friday, but Friday after that. We're looking April 24th. We're looking toward the latter part of this month here. And that's where our upper level winds are rather unimpressive. We have substantial fuel sitting around here. We don't necessarily have a good initiation lifting mechanism. Sometimes you would call it a trigger for storms. So I think we'll still be popping up a few, but not quite as many as our chances as we go towards Saturday. Now, this is not this coming Saturday. This is a week from Saturday, April 25th. Things start looking a lot more interesting. By that point in time, what we do have is what we call a negatively tilted trough here. So that's what this is right here, right? So this is a pretty pronounced trough, and this is my favorite model, the European model here, even though my wife is an American model. The European weather model is the one that I always go with. And so this negatively tilted trough shows us that the jet stream winds are going to swing on through in a way that could be very active. Now here's the deal about this. This is going to change a lot the next few days, but this shows things kind of loading up there on a week from Saturday. We show in the lower levels where you see the darker purples there. That's where the lower level winds are really kind of cranking up there, and the black arrows indicate kind of where those lower level winds are. And there's a little difference in direction there. Not a huge difference, but a little bit of a difference. And we do have that fuel showing up below. So that combination tells us, not this Saturday, a week from Saturday, those severe weather chances could be increasing more if this ends up playing out like this. And then as that system digs through, it should eject it pretty quickly. This shows by a week from Sunday. Now here's the deal. A trough like this is going to shift in timing potentially as we get closer. It could end up Friday and weaker. It could end up Sunday and we still have more fuel around. So again, this is looking late this month. Honestly, in my way, in a lot of ways, first real chance for severe weather we've had in April on a kind of substantial scale. Latter part of this month, closer to the 25th, a possibility there. Hopefully that weakens as we get closer and changes. Beyond that, that sweeps things out of here. We could reload with another one of those storm systems as we go towards, say, Tuesday. This would be a couple weeks from Tuesday, obviously. This would be 2 weeks from today. Is that right? Yeah, 2 weeks from today here. That initial wave, not much fuel, but another one loading up behind that perhaps later in that week, we could have some fuel and more thunderstorm chances eventually there. So in the near term, next couple of days, we're going to have some storm chances for tomorrow, and there is a limited severe weather chance. But as we showed you a moment ago, looking at that crossover, if you just compare the way it looks, certainly this is a more unimpressive chance in comparison to some that we will eventually have. We're going mid-80s out there for highs. We're upper 80s, dry for Friday. Storm chances, a more widespread likelihood for us to see thunderstorms on Saturday. Still not a high likelihood of severe weather. And all those chances we are talking about come in after that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week as we are drier. It's beyond that, looking toward the weekend after that. So later this month, before that is the case. Of course, join the conversations you can see here. We appreciate all of our sponsors for being partnering up with us here on Mississippi Live. One of the things that we do like to do, though, is we do like to visit a lot of different TV stations, schools out there. I'm going to go, Gabe, if we can, we'll bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor here. And Gabe, you had the opportunity to talk to school today, didn't you?
Yeah, up in Marshall County, it was Potts Camp High School. Here is some video that was actually taken while I was over there. And of course, they wanted to say hey, so I had to let them get a little bit of a feature there. And it was a great time out there. Talked to the 10th and 11th grade. Yes, the entire grade, so it covered a good bit of the auditorium. But they were fascinated by the aspects of weather, wanting to learn more. We even played a game where they got to be a meteorologist, and those were the winners there at the front of the auditorium. So just real exciting and a great time to get up there in Marshall County. One of the big things we talked about was severe weather, but one of the big things we talked about was the ice storm that actually moved through just a couple months ago. So that's one reason why whenever we talk about severe weather, or even just a strong thunderstorm, that it's so significant is because even in Marshall County, where some of those limbs are a little bit more vulnerable, those could be knocked over in sub-severe wind gusts. And that's, of course, a big concern when we're talking some potential power outages. I mean, we were talking today about some of the trees falling in the wrong direction. And if they fall in the wrong direction, that could be a home, could be a car. We've seen it time and time again here in North Mississippi. So basically letting them know it doesn't take a tornado for it to be impactful. And that's what we're dealing with heading into this weekend, Matt, is going to be some of those impactful storms, potentially tomorrow, potentially by Saturday. So that's why we need to stay informed. And so we also went through at the end. Everyone downloaded the Mississippi Live weather app, so that way they were able to tune in tonight, but also stay prepared ahead of those events.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Gabe. And I do see the people in the comments there, being thankful. Oops, I had the wrong button there. So we'll go ahead and bring that back up here in just a second. I made that unhappy, Gabe. So, remember I programmed the thing? And we'll pull down that. Look at that. It's like we meant to do it, which we did. But in the comments there, I do see, where is it? Leanna there, thanking you for coming out there right beside me. We do like to do these visits. I was in Water Valley yesterday. We're trying to get around. We've had a lot of requests coming in. And so whether it's Gabe, myself, Maggie, or Caleb, we'll try to get as many of those as we can. But things are Things are very busy. And certainly I will tell you this, teachers, the fall is almost always better. I know it doesn't always line up with Common Core the right way like that. Fall is almost always better for us just because we don't have to worry about the severe weather chance. It's usually our driest time of the year. Severe weather, other locations that has been significant from time to time here, including for locations up there into the Midwest, as we mentioned a moment ago. And I'll bring, Gabe, your microphone up here behind the scenes. Now, you were talking about, some of these active situations like the severe weather up there into Missouri. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not a good look coming out of Missouri right now because of that confirmed tornado in Clinton. Where it hit was in the, of course, the center of town there in the Clinton, Missouri area, but it was close to the high school as well. So working to collect reports behind the scenes, but as of right now, multiple power lines reported down, there's trees down. In the words of some of the emergency managers up there, structures destroyed. And that is never a good look. And so if you look right there, I know it's showing some of the radar imagery, but go to some of our debris tracker, you'd see that debris lofted nearly 4,000 feet, which in the grand scheme of things is a strong tornado. And anytime we're saying structures destroyed, we know just how damaging that can be. And so if you go back right here, you'll see a pretty pronounced debris signature from that report a moment ago.
Yeah. Clinton, for the Law Ponds, this is part of our trip up and back and forth to Kansas City when we go up there. So we go through Clinton. So I know that area pretty well there. So our prayers with those folks.
We've missed you here the past couple of days because all of these severe weather reports have been in your old stomping ground. So you provide the local appeal.
A couple days it was literally 2 miles south of my parents.
Wow. And they're okay, right?
Yeah, they were fine. They had tree knocked over a couple houses down from them, but a couple houses down. So I mean it's an example, and there's a better look on that radar from near the Kansas City area. It's than the other one. But anyway, so now Adrian and the folks with North Mississippi Storm Chasers, I'll bring you back on camera here for a moment. Bring that back there. They've been up there doing some chasing as well, right? Do we know where Adrian and Michael and all those different folks are?
So they were actually on their way back today, and they would have been in this same general area yesterday and would have been able to give us a little bit of an update out there in the Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas area, but on their way back, so they are not on this storm. But of course, the whole team there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers keeping an eye on this, and even here at Mississippi Live Weather doing the exact same. And as of right now, that's the one confirmed tornado for today. And I know that we're saying that it's still a tornado, but the past couple of days, we're talking tornado after tornado. So let's hopefully keep that number to a 1 and then limit that out for the next couple of days, because up there, it has been as active as I've ever seen for a severe weather outlook.
Yeah, we don't like that for sure. Okay, anything else you want to add?
Just say a prayer for everyone that has been affected this week and stay updated heading into tomorrow. While it's not exactly a tornadic setup, still could be impactful with some of those strong damaging wind gusts and some of those large hailstones as well. So we'll keep you guys updated, watching this around the clock, and we'll still have our game of the week tomorrow, but kind of going to reroute depending on how it needs to go as those storms do move on in.
Yeah, it might end up being Gabe Maynor. We will see how that ends up working for tomorrow. Our next live broadcast will be at 9 p.m. That will absolutely be meteorologist Gabe Maynor breaking down the latest on the changes to this severe weather threat over the next couple of days. As you might notice, the difference between Maggie this morning at 6:37, 7:30 a.m. and what we had this evening is that an upgrade to that severe weather risk. Now, level 1 for locations like New Albany, Holly Springs, Corinth, Iuka, Ripley. We'll be breaking down the very latest here in the Room to Room Weather Center coming up tonight at 10. We hope to see you then, and thank you so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. But only you can prevent wildfires.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.